Okay, so let's unpack this. If you are serious, I mean really serious about getting fluent in English, you probably spent hours, maybe hundreds of hours, wrestling with grammar rules.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know that little editor in your head, right? The one that's correcting every single verb tense before you even open your mouth to speak.
The frustration is so real.
It is. And the goal here in this deep dive isn't just about studying English harder. It's about shifting those mental gears. Moving from that constant calculation to communication, just letting it flow.
And that shift is exactly what our sources are all about today. That move from, consciously applying a rule to just speaking, unconsciously.
So we're really looking at a blueprint here.
We are a blueprint for accelerated acquisition. We're pulling out specific, proven strategies that cover, well, everything. Maximizing your input, practical exercises for writing and speaking, and it's all centered on getting you to think naturally in English while, still managing the errors that are going to happen.
So our mission, really, is to give you a kind of systemic overhaul. We're not just giving general advice.
No.
We're digging into the actual tactics, the how-tos, how to build confidence, how to maximize the sheer volume of English you take in, and how to use all these correction tools efficiently.
And what's so fascinating, what the sources all seem to agree on, is that the conventional wisdom might be, well, a little backward.
How so?
Fluency isn't about getting rid of all your mistakes right at the beginning. It's actually about optimizing that whole input-output loop and just making peace with being imperfect.
That's a huge mental shift for a lot of learners.
It is. And to really use this blueprint, we have to start with the psychology, the why behind it all. We need to understand why focusing so hard on conscious grammar rules can actually sometimes be bad for spontaneous speech.
Okay, so the goal is genuine acquisition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mimicking that natural, almost effortless way native speakers just use the language.
All right, so to really get why we need to embrace our mistakes, we have to start with some of the foundational work in this field.
Right. We have to talk about Stephen Krashen's monitor model theory.
Which introduces this critical distinction that basically changes how you should view every minute you spend studying.
It really does. It's called the acquisition-learning divide.
Okay, so let's define those. What's the difference?
So acquisition is the natural way. It's subconscious, it's informal. It happens when you're just using the language to communicate something.
Like a kid learning to talk.
Exactly like a kid. They aren't sitting there with a grammar book. They're just trying to ask for a cookie. They internalize all the rules implicitly just through hearing tons and tons of language.
Okay, so that's acquisition. Then what's learning?
Learning is the opposite. It's formal. It's the conscious knowledge of the rules. It's what you do in a classroom.
Memorizing verb tables.
Memorizing verb tables, lists of prepositions, studying the rules for the present perfect tense. It's all about the form of the language, not necessarily the message you're trying to send.
Right. And Krashen's central claim, which I know is a bit controversial.
Very controversial in some circles, yeah. His claim is that acquisition is just. It's far more successful. It's more robust. It lasts longer than that conscious learning.
So all that conscious knowledge, the learning part, it doesn't easily turn into fluent speech.
According to him, no. It serves one very minor function. He calls it the monitor.
Okay, I want to focus on that monitor role because I think that's where all the frustration comes from for people. So if all that grammar study is just for the monitor, what does it actually do?
Think of it like an editor, a very slow editor. It can polish your speech, but only after you've already thought of what to say. Or it works when you're doing something slow and planned, like writing an essay or giving a rehearsed speech.
But not in a real fast conversation.
Exactly. In a spontaneous conversation, there is just no time. There's no time to run everything through your internal grammar checker. If you try, the whole flow it breaks down.
And you get that hesitation, the slowing down. You sound robotic.
You do, because you're calculating grammar instead of just communicating your idea.
Yeah. But wait a minute. Does that mean studying grammar is like a waste of time? I know some experts really disagree with Krashen on this. They argue that the line between learning and acquisition is a lot blurrier.
And that's a fair criticism. But what matters for you, the learner, is how you allocate your effort. Even if the line is blurry, the takeaway is pretty clear. Spend most of your time on activities that drive acquisition.
So more listening, more reading, more talking.
Yes. Maximize meaningful communication and comprehensible input. The grammar will start to feel natural through all that exposure. If you get too stuck on the form, you're actually slowing down your own acquisition.
And that mental hesitation, that self-correction, it's often caused by this next big psychological barrier, isn't it? The affective filter.
This is probably the single biggest saboteur of your progress.
So what is it exactly?
The affective filter is basically an emotional barrier. It's made up of things like low motivation, low self-confidence, or, and this is the big one for fluency, a huge concern about making mistakes.
An anxiety wall.
A perfect way to put it. And if that filter is up or high, then it doesn't matter how good the input is. Even if the English you're hearing is perfectly understandable, it just doesn't get in. It doesn't reach the part of your brain that processes language.
And that part of the brain, just for clarity, we're talking about the LAD, right? The language acquisition device.
Correct. That's the concept from Noam Chomsky. It's this sort of
Yeah.
hypothetical cognitive tool we're all born with that lets us learn language.
Right.
So if your anxiety is high, it's like you're putting up a firewall around your LAD.
So you could be in the best English class in the world, watching the best movies.
But if you're terrified of speaking, that knowledge just sits there. It's inert. It doesn't become part of you.
Okay, so the immediate actionable goal then has to be keeping that filter down, lowering that anxiety.
Constantly.
And the sources point out that this fear actually has a physical effect on your speech. They call it mushing.
Mushing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a physical symptom of high anxiety. What happens is anxious speakers tend to rush their words. Subconsciously, they're just trying to get the interaction over with as quickly as possible to avoid making more mistakes.
And that speed just destroys any clarity.
Totally. Vowel sounds get swallowed, consonants become unclear, words just blur together.
Yeah.
That's the mushing. Then the listener can't understand you. They ask you to repeat yourself.
Which just reinforces that feeling of failure and spikes your anxiety even higher.
It's a vicious cycle.
So how do you break it? What are the practical steps in what the sources call the confidence mandate?
Okay, so there's a four-part strategy here to keep that filter down. First, and this is the most important, give yourself permission to make mistakes.
Okay.
Your goal is communication, not perfection. Errors are just data points. They're not disasters.
I like that. Errors are data.
Second, scale the risk. Don't jump into a high-stakes business presentation on day one. Start small. Talk to yourself in the car. Find a trusted, patient language partner.
Low stakes environments. And the third step, this one deals with the mushing directly.
It does. You have to consciously manage your pace. Slow down. It's not just for clarity, though that's huge. It also gives your monitor, that internal editor, just a split second more time to catch a common error without you having to stop completely.
And finally,
Positive self-talk. It sounds cheesy, but it works. You have to replace, oh, I'm so bad at this, with, I'm improving and people can understand me.
this entire philosophy seems to feed right into this intensive, structured plan our sources talk about, the 90-day blueprint.
Exactly. If we accept that real acquisition needs high volume and low anxiety, then this blueprint gives you the structure to actually do it.
And it's designed to move a learner from being really good at listening to being a confident speaker.
Right, from foundational listening dominance to continuous high confidence speaking. And yes, the commitment is pretty demanding. It calls for a minimum of 2.5 hours of focused practice every day.
Whoa. 2.5 hours. Okay, let's break that down. How does a busy person, with a job and a life, actually do that without burning out? You mentioned it's segmented.
Yes, the segmentation is the key. It's not one huge 2.5 hour block. You break it up to fit your day and your energy levels.
So what would that look like?
A sample day might be, say, 30 minutes of vocabulary review with a spaced repetition system. That's high focus, short burst. Then maybe 60 minutes of comprehensible input. That could be reading a graded reader on your commute or watching a show with subtitles. That's more passive.
Okay, so that's an hour and a half.
Then you could do 30 minutes of shadowing or pronunciation work. That's very active, mechanical practice. And then the last 30 to 60 minutes would be actual output practice, a language exchange or writing exercise.
That sounds a lot more doable when you put it like that.
Right. And the whole idea is that you need that volume. You have to saturate your brain with correct English patterns before you can expect it to produce them spontaneously and correctly.
You fill the tank before you try to drive the car?
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, so let's get into the methodology, building that foundation.
Right. So the engine for acquisition runs on one thing, the volume and the quality of the input you're getting. So we need strategies that maximize that.
And the sources are pretty clear that the starting point, once you're past the, total beginner stage, is vocabulary. Specifically, the list of the 1,000 most common words in English.
Yes. Mastering that first 1,000 to 2,000 words. It's statistically proven it unlocks something like 80% of everyday conversation. But how you learn them is what really matters.
So just memorizing a list of definitions isn't the way to go.
It's the absolute slowest and least effective method. The sources are really insistent on this. You need context and immediate application.
So if I learn a new word, like tentative, I don't just write down not certain.
No, you should immediately create a simple, meaningful sentence for yourself. My plans for the weekend are tentative. Just that one little step forces the word into a sentence structure, into a context. You're encoding the meaning and the grammar at the same time.
And this brings us to that whole idea of cramming versus consistency. Cramming 100 words the night before a test. That's just shallow processing.
It's temporary storage. For real language acquisition, you need deep processing. You have to move that information from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. And that only happens with consistent, repeated exposure over time.
Which is why the blueprint suggests small daily goals.
Exactly. Learning and actively using maybe 10 to 15 new words every single day. That promotes that deep encoding and long-term retention.
And technology has given us an incredible tool for this. Spaced repetition systems, or SRS.
Yeah, and a lot of people think SRS is just, a fancy flashcard app.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. It misses the genius of the algorithm behind it.
Okay, so explain that. What makes a true SRS system different?
A true SRS isn't based on a fixed schedule. It's based on your performance and the science of the memory decay curve.
The what curve?
The memory decay curve. It's this idea that when you learn something new, you forget it very, very quickly, unless you review it.
So the SRS tool is basically tracking how fast you're forgetting each word.
For every single item, yeah.
Yeah.
If you learn a new word and you recall it easily today, the system might not show it to you again for 5 days,
Right.
then maybe 2 weeks. But if you struggle with it, the interval shrinks. It might show it to you again in 30 minutes, then 3 hours.
So it's showing you the word right at the moment you're about to forget it.
Precisely. It maximizes how efficiently you remember things and cuts out wasted time reviewing stuff you already know well. Tools like Anki, Talhammer, Linguist, they do this really well.
And now there's AI-enhanced SRS. How does AI make that even better?
Well, a traditional SRS like Anki uses a pretty simple grading scale. You click again, hard, good, or easy. AI systems can track much more data.
Like what?
The context of the sentence, your past performance on similar grammar, even how fast you recall the answer, so it can adjust the timing of the next review with way more precision. It really makes sure you see the right thing at exactly the right time for your brain.
So beyond that kind of personalized vocab review, the other big source of input is just mass immersion, reading, watching stuff.
Right. And this brings us back to Krashen and his idea of comprehensible input, specifically the 1 plus $1 principle.
So I is your current level.
Correct. I is your current proficiency. The principle says that the best input for you is at a level of I plus 1. So just one small step beyond what you already know.
Because if it's too easy, I plus 0, you're bored and you learn nothing new.
And if it's too hard, say I plus 5, you're overwhelmed, your anxiety goes up, and that affective filter shoots right up. You're looking for that sweet spot. Challenging, but manageable.
And this is why graded readers are so highly recommended.
Absolutely. Graded readers are books that are specifically written for learners. The vocabulary and grammar are carefully controlled. You should look for ones that are categorized by the CEFR scale.
That's the A1, A2, B1 scale.
Right. The Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. So if you know you're a solid A2 level, you should be reading books for high A2 or low B1. It builds your reading stamina and your intuitive feel for grammar without you having to think about the rules.
So reading gives you the broad structure. But listening, especially with subtitles, seems to solve that huge problem of how fast native speakers actually talk.
It's a massive help. The sources stress that you should use subtitles that are a verbatim transcription. So the exact words being said in the target language.
Why is that so powerful?
Because it triggers multimodal processing. You are hearing the sound, seeing the text, and seeing the visual action all at the same time. Your brain is getting the same information from multiple channels.
And that's critical for understanding what the sources call reduced forms.
Oh, reduced forms are a huge hurdle. For example, in fast speech, nobody says, "What did you say?" clearly. It sounds more like "would just say."
Or going to becomes gonna.
Exactly. So if you've only ever learned the written form, the spoken form can be completely unrecognizable. But when you see the text, "What did you say?" on the screen at the exact same moment, you hear, "What you say?"
Your brain makes the connection.
Your brain connects the two. It reconciles the sound with the correct grammar. And then you can test yourself, Turn the subtitles off, see if you can catch it. If not, turn them back on. It's perfect scaffolding for your listening skills.
And the sources also mention cultural salience, that choosing content you're already familiar with helps.
It lowers the cognitive load. So if you watch a sitcom you loved as a kid, but now you watch it in English, you already know the plot, the characters, the jokes. You can use all that existing knowledge to help you understand the language. It keeps things fun and keeps that affective filter way down.
Okay, so once you've saturated your brain with all this input, you have to move to the refinement stage.
Right. Now we focus on the output, on the mechanics of how you sound and how you structure your ideas. And the number one tool for this is the shadowing technique.
This is a game changer for so many people, and it's more than just repeating what you hear, right?
It's fundamentally different. Simple repetition is like singing along with the radio. Shadowing is like trying to be the singer's literal vocal. Shadow matching their pitch, their speed, their rhythm, their stress at the same time as they're speaking.
And this directly attacks that mushing problem we talked about earlier.
It forces you to adopt a native-like pace and clear articulation. And the sources lay out a very clear four-step way to do it right.
Okay, what's step one?
Step one is selection and listening. You pick a short, high-quality audio clip that has the accent you want to learn. And you just listen to it a few times, but you're not listening for the words. You're listening for the music, the rhythm, the intonation.
Step two is repetition and phasing.
This, where you build up slowly. Don't try to shadow the whole thing at once. Start with just a few words, then a short phrase, then a full sentence. You're training the muscles in your mouth.
And step three is where the real correction happens.
This is the most powerful part, the self-correction loop. You have to record yourself shadowing the audio. Then you listen back and compare your recording to the original, side by side.
And you're listening for specific differences, not just, I sound bad.
You have to get specific. Are you mixing up the I in ship with the E in sheep? Are you not putting the little puff of air on your P sounds? Are you stressing the wrong syllable in a word like photography?
So you identify your personal repeating patterns of mispronunciation.
Yes. So you can do targeted practice on just those sounds. And then step 4 is integration. That's the final goal. To be able to speak the entire passage right along with the original speaker, perfectly in sync. When you can do that, you're internalizing those native speech patterns.
Okay, so that's the sound. What are the structure? Moving beyond those simple subject, verb, object sentences, which that's a huge leap for learners.
It is. If you want to sound sophisticated, especially in a professional or academic setting, you have to master complex syntax.
So let's break down the main sentence types you need.
We can start with a compound sentence. This is pretty simple. It's just two complete thoughts, two independent clauses joined together. You use it when the two ideas are closely related.
Like, the meeting was productive, but the budget still needs more work.
Perfect. Both halves could be their own sentence, but the but connects them and shows the relationship. It's efficient.
Okay, next up is the complex sentence.
This is one independent clause plus at least one dependent clause. The dependent clause can't stand on its own as a sentence. It usually starts with a word like because, after, although, while.
The sources give a great example. Very few people envisioned practical applications of penicillin. That's the main idea. After Fleming discovered it, that's the extra info.
Exactly. And you can move that dependent clause around. After Fleming discovered penicillin, very few people envisioned practical applications. It gives you writing flexibility.
And then the final boss, the complex sentence.
This is the ultimate tool for detailed explanations. It's at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause.
For example, the researchers reviewed the literature idea 1, and they examined the study's idea 2 before they wrote the proposal, the dependent part.
It allows you to pack in a ton of information and show how all the pieces relate in a really sophisticated way.
But when you're building these big, complex sentences, there's a really common error that even advanced learners make all the time: the comma splice.
Oh, the dreaded comma splice. It's so tricky because it often sounds right when you're speaking.
So what is it, technically?
It's when you join two complete sentences with just a comma. For example, the system needs updating, the server is too slow. That comma isn't strong enough to hold those two big ideas together. In writing, it's a structural error.
Okay, so how do you fix it? The sources list 3 professional-level solutions.
Solution 1 is the easiest. Add a coordinating conjunction, one of the F fanboys after the comma. The system needs updating, so the server is too slow.
Simple enough. What's solution 2?
Use a semicolon. A semicolon is strong enough to connect two closely related independent clauses all by itself. The system needs updating. The server is too slow.
And the third one is the most sophisticated, using a conjunctive adverb.
Right. This shows a more nuanced relationship, and it has a specific punctuation pattern. Semicolon, then the adverb, then a comma. The system needs updating, therefore the server is too slow. Using words like however, consequently, moreover, it just takes your writing to another level.
Okay, shifting from pure grammar to style, the sources have some really cool writing exercises for making your language more concise and powerful.
Yes, the first one is adjective and adverb reduction. The goal here is to stop using weak adjectives and adverbs to prop up weak verbs. You want your nouns and verbs to do the heavy lifting.
The example from Ursula K. Le Guin is great. Instead of writing, the moon was snow white and very bright against the inky, dark sky.
You find a stronger verb. You could change that to the moon glowed against the black sky. You replaced was in a bunch of weak descriptors with one powerful active verb. It has so much more impact.
Another good tip is avoiding those there is or it is constructions at the start of sentences.
Definitely. Instead of there are hundreds of butterflies flying around us, change it to hundreds of butterflies flutter around us. It's more direct, more active.
The second exercise is microfiction for concision.
This is a fantastic drill. It's not just a fun prompt. When you force yourself to write a complete story in under 500 words, every single word has to count. There's no room for fluff.
And you can take it to extremes. Try 250 words, a 2-sentence horror story, or the classic 6-word story. For sale, baby shoes, never worn.
That exercise trains your brain to communicate the maximum amount of meaning with the minimum number of words.
And the last one is changing perspective. This sounds really challenging.
It's difficult, but it's so rewarding. You take a piece of your own writing, an email, an essay, and you rewrite it from a totally different point of view.
So like changing from third person to first person.
That's one way. Or, for a real challenge, rewrite your argument from the perspective of someone who completely disagrees with you.
Wow. Okay, that would force you to use a whole different vocabulary and tone.
It forces you to have such a deep command of the language that you can flexibly inhabit any voice, any stance. It's a true test of mastery.
All right, so we've built the foundation with input, we've polished the mechanics. The last piece of the puzzle is just practice.
Yeah.
Real interaction.
It's the final indispensable component.
Yeah.
You have to have structured, consistent output.
Because speaking is the ultimate test, isn't it? It's active recall. You have to pull the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation all together instantly.
And that interaction gives you immediate feedback, which is the fastest way to correct your mistakes and, maybe most importantly, to build your confidence.
Yeah.
It normalizes the act of making a mistake.
You can't just learn passively forever.
You can't. You can understand every grammar rule in the book, but if you haven't trained your mouth and your brain to produce the language quickly, you'll never move that theory into real-world fluency.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because once you're ready for that output, the sources give this whole menu of platforms and partners depending on what your goal is.
It's a really great breakdown. So if your goal is, say, professional development, and you need to fix some deep systemic errors, you should probably look at a tutoring platform. Proply is mentioned as the best for that.
Working with an expert who can spot your patterns.
Exactly. But if you just want a quick, casual, low-stakes chat, the landscape is different. Speaky is highlighted as being great for instant exchanges. You get on, you get connected, you start talking.
Then there are platforms that focus more on safety and connecting with people nearby.
Right. Idioma is specifically noted for that. It helps you find people in your local area, but with safety features like verified profiles, one-click blocking, you can even disable photo messages. It's designed to create a safer environment.
For more general chatting, there are the big established ones.
Yeah. HelloTalk and Tandem, they've been around for a while, they're reliable, and they have really innovative tools inside the app, like built-in translation and easy ways to correct your partner's text messages.
What about if you're looking for something more long-term? Not just a quick chat, but a real study buddy.
For that, the sources suggest My Language Exchange. It's less like a modern app and more like a simple database. But the people on there are often looking for a serious, long-term connection. They'll often move the conversation to Skype or WhatsApp, which shows a real commitment.
And for people who prefer groups or in-person stuff,
Meetup is the go-to for finding in-person language exchange events in your city. And for online group discussions, there's the Polyglot Club.
what's the advantage of that one?
The big one is that it's completely free and has this massive library of resources and hosts, group video chats on grammar, culture, all sorts of topics for over 100 languages. It's great if you want to practice in a group setting.
And finally, you can just use social media.
Don't overlook it. Reddit and Facebook have tons of language exchange communities. On Facebook, you can search for a private group like Spanish to English Language Exchange.
And the benefit there is you can kind of vet the person beforehand.
Exactly. You can see their profile, their interests, their photos. It adds a layer of social trust before you even connect.
So once you've found a partner, how do you make sure those practice sessions are actually effective and not just a waste of time?
There are 4 essential tips. First, set clear goals and prepare topics. Don't just show up and say, what do you want to talk about? Have a few ideas ready. It keeps the conversation flowing and your anxiety down.
Second, and this is the big one, spend equal time on each language.
It seems obvious, but you have to be disciplined. 50% of the time, you speak English. 50%, you help your partner with your native language. No exceptions.
All right, what else?
Third, agree to correct each other's mistakes gently. It should be a supportive environment, not a critical one. And finally, just remember the big psychological goal. Keep it relaxed. A low-anxiety exchange is infinitely more productive than a high-stakes, stressful one.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together.
To synthesize this entire blueprint, it's really about a strategic balance. True acquisition needs tons of high-volume, interesting, comprehensible input. You get that from graded readers, subtitled shows, and smart SRS tools.
And all of that has to be fueled by low anxiety, keeping that effective filter down.
Yes. Then once you have that foundation, you follow it up with structured output. You use techniques like shadowing to fix your cadence, and you use those targeted language exchanges to polish your grammar and your precision.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening? I think the biggest takeaway is just a shift in mindset.
I agree.
The fear of making a mistake, that high effective filter, that's almost always a bigger obstacle than the mistake itself. When you finally decide to prioritize communication and flow and just daily engagement over being grammatically perfect, the rules will eventually just sink in. They'll become natural.
Fluency is the result of thousands of hours of communication, not thousands of hours of avoiding errors.
Right. And it helps to remember that fluency isn't some final destination. You don't just achieve it and then you're done.
Not at all.
The source material had this one last really profound piece of research that puts it all in perspective. It said that people continue to learn new words in their native language every single day until they're in middle age.
It's a fascinating thought.
It is. So if constant improvement is just a normal part of using your own mother tongue, a language you've already mastered, how much more essential is it for us to see second language acquisition not as a goal to be finished, but as a lifelong commitment to just engaging with it every single day?
Keep that 90-day cycle going, keep the input high, and above all, keep that filter down.